Okay, hey everybody, and in today's video we're gonna be talking about the Mera no Mi and Sabo. I don't know why, because I've talked about them before at length, but okay, let's just do that. Alright, so the Mera no... This is not the Mera no Mi. Wait. Holy crap, is this a Bleach video? What the hell? I think that rip in my corner is acting up again. Okay. So, I think I might have gotten a little mixed up here. Hold on, let me gather myself. Okay, so Bleach, fire powers. I seem to remember there being a really important character with fire powers in Bleach. Genichimaru! Or possibly Genryusai Shigekune Yamamoto. Yeah, I still nailed that on the first try. I think I might have mixed up the Genryusai and the Shigekune, but it doesn't matter. Alright, so, do you guys want to talk about Bleach again? Because I've been getting that kind of itch. I've been getting that cone itch on my back. Like, you know, I really miss talking about Bleach. When you talk about something for 5 years and it's the entire focus of your YouTube channel, and all of a sudden you stop doing it because the series ended, you know, it's not going to take very much longer after that before it's like, okay, I got that. So, I went back through all of my old videos and I'm like, alright, is there anything that I have yet to talk about involving Bleach? Because once again, I talked about it for 5 years, alright? So I'm like, I made videos on all the Espada, I made videos on all the captains for Bleach Mist, I made videos on all the new Bankai in the last arc we got, I made a video about Chojiro's Bankai. Alright, when you made a video about Chojiro's Bankai, I think you can pretty much just slam that in like, alright, you've tackled pretty much everything involving Bleach. I did videos on all the Bankai, I did videos on all that keto. So it's like, you know what though? Let's scale this back a bit. Instead of talking about something I haven't yet, you know what I like to talk about? What do I want to talk about? Zanpakuto. You know why? Because they're cool. They're magic swords that transform into even more magical swords and then into a third final form that's a magical sword kind of thing. You know, and these are some of my best anime memories, you know, back during, you know, when I was in high school, like in 2007, staying up late on Saturday nights, watching Toonami on Adult Swim. Well, I guess Toonami wasn't on Adult Swim, it was just Adult Swim back then, but, you know, there's, you know, Ichigo fighting against Kenpachi, or Ichigo fighting against Byakuya, and it's like, we got magic swords, and here's Ichigo's Bankai. You know, I like talking about Zanpakuto. So you know what? Screw it. Here's what we're gonna do. New discussion series. We're gonna go through every single captain in the Gotei 13, in the court guard squads, if you're an English dub watcher, and we're gonna talk about each captain's Zanpakuto. So we're gonna start off, of course, with number 1, Shigekune Genryusai Yamamoto Zanpakuto RYUJIN JAKKA. It'll probably overlap with some other videos I made, but those were a long time ago, and I just really want to talk about Bleach again. And afterwards, much like the My Hero Academia videos, we're going to have a random selector to determine the next one. I made all these handy little Gotei info cards, and we're going to shuffle these up, and we're going to decide which captain I'll talk about next. These are the original generation captains as well, so we're not talking about like Kensei or Rose or Shinji. Maybe later I'll talk about them, but these are just like the original captains in the Soul Society arc, you know, when Bleach was at like its height. You know, we're gonna talk about them. Okay, so Yamamoto. He is the badass old dude that has a sword that can light anything on fire and literally embodies the flames of hell itself. So, yeah. You know how badass Yamamoto is? He doesn't even need to pull out the sword. He doesn't even need to raise his cane or even raise his voice, even. All he needs to do to just incapacitate you is literally to stare at you. Alright, because when Shunsui and Ukitake and Yamamoto, after the events at the Sokyoku, they left and they're like, oh, we're gonna have our big epic battle, Nanao decides to go along. Shunsui's vice captain. Don't know why she decided to do that. Maybe she felt like, oh, I have to be there for my captain in case he does something stupid. But still, girl, I don't think this is the kind of fight you can even really assist in, alright? So, they go, they land, and Yamamoto looks at that, and he's just like, alright, I have no time to play with infants that don't even know how to walk yet. Alright, that is, and compared to Yamamoto, who is several thousand, I repeat, 1,000 years old, yeah, now basically is nothing more than just an infant to him. And so he just stares at her and just boom. And then she literally begins, it's way more graphic in the manga. She begins to like tear up and start foaming at the mouth like she's seizing up, and she just passes out. And then Shunsui has to grab her and be like, okay, this was a bad idea to bring you here. And they take her to a safe location. All right. After that, the fight gets started. Yamamoto keeps his trusty Zanpakuto RYUJIN JAKKA inside of his cane. So he just like raises up his cane that you think, oh, he's an old man, so he has to use it to get around. But no, it's just a fashionable accessory, really. The cane dissipates. It's probably used by Kido or some type of spell to like give it the illusion. It's the same thing that probably Uehara does, because he hides his sword in a cane as well. And then RYUJIN JAKKA is revealed. The blade itself, this is not RYUJIN JAKKA. This is actually Law's Kikoku inside of Yubashiri's sheath. But yeah, the sealed form of RYUJIN JAKKA doesn't really have anything unique. The guard is just a regular circular guard, or more like an oval. But the sword does hint at like an advanced age. Like, you could just look at it and there's nothing really unique that stands out. It's not like it has a really flamboyant guard or scabbard or anything. It's just kind of like rough looking. It's a little bit beaten up, a few marks on it. Just like you could tell this blade has been with Yamamoto for millennia. And he's used it in countless fights, even more than that probably, even more than 1,000 fights or 1,000 years. You know, he's had it for a very, very long time. And so it just, the appearance of it just exudes, just, whoa. Like, anybody that would even see the damn thing in its like sealed state should start running as fast as they can in the opposite direction. Like, Yamamoto doesn't even need to release the thing, which is key during his fight with Aion. And now this was something that I was a little confused by with the way this went down. So, during Fate Karakura, Aion shows up, which is this giant chimera creature that was created by Holybell's Fraction. Wait, no? Am I getting the names right? Fracciones? Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the subordinates that you spot are Fracciones. Yeah, I got that. I have to, come on, brain! We gotta start unlocking all those Bleach terms again. Alright, so anyway, when they created Aion and Yamamoto's fighting against him, he does take out his sword. Now, when I first read this scene in the manga, way back when I was like a sophomore in high school, I assumed he activated RYUJIN JAKKA and used a flame to slice Aion right in half. Apparently that's not actually what he did. So the name of the technique was RYUJIN JAKKA Strike 1 Nadegiri. You know, that was basically what it was. But he didn't activate his sword's ability. I think it was just like a typical sword slash. Like, Yamamoto's been around for so long, his Zanjutsu skills, just regular sword fighting alone, he is peerless, right? So he was able just to take out his blade and just shing. And then, without even activating the fire powers, that was enough in and of itself to just whoosh, slice down Aion. At least that's what I assume happened. You could always say he used like a little bit of the fire to slice him up, but I like to think that's way more badass and way more likely that he didn't even feel it necessary to release his Shikai against Aion, because he pitied Aion. He viewed it as like, this is just a sad, brainless creature that was brought into existence. Like, I didn't ask to be born, and now it has really no, thought of its own. It can feel feelings, but it's just in constant pain and suffering, and so that's how Yamamoto viewed it. Like, I'm just gonna end this poor thing's existence by just slicing it right in half. But of course, that didn't end up working, because Aion was such a monster, even after sliced in half, its two halves could still attack him. And so at that point, Yamamoto really did like, alright, this is gonna just get, I mean, I could keep dicing you up until you're little cubes of jelly, but that's not really going to be practical, and also, we got a battle to fight. I mean, the pacing in this arc is already really wonky, so I'm just gonna end this immediately. And that's when he just grabs his sword and just erupts in fire with his Shikai, and then just burns Aion. It just incinerates him at a molecular level. He's not even ashes after this is over. And this was a giant behemoth that was able to wipe out, vice captain after vice captain, right? And it was this incredibly powerful thing. Even pounded Kurhei into the ground during the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, right? So, as you can imagine, something like this, and with the power that Yamamoto exudes, it doesn't need to be really complicated. You don't need to have an ability like Soifon's Suzume Bachi, where it's like 2 hits, certain death, or, whatever the hell Unohana's Bankai did. We'll get to that one eventually. You don't have to do anything complicated. It's just, his Shikai creates massive amounts of fire. and it's wicked hot. It burns hotter than any fire that you've ever, like, you could go to the dollar store and buy a cheap, you know, like 60-cent lighter. It's way hotter than anything like that you can imagine. He can control the capacity of the flames, how long they last. He has a technique called Fortress Blades, or I think it's like Ko Chako Enjo or something like that, where he just creates a big, huge, like, prison of fire, and it just, you know, covers anyone he wants or any object, and it will remain burning like that for a while. He used this to trap Gin, Aizen, and Tozen, and keep in mind, I mean, I don't know if Yamamoto really understood the full, like, ceiling of Aizen's power with the Hogyoku and everything, but even knowing that Aizen was ridiculously stronger than any other captain at the time, and he also had Gin and Tozen with him, Yamamoto was 100% confident that his Fortress Blaze technique would be able to seal them away for the time being. And so he even was like, that was the first thing they did after they arrived in Karakura Town, just like, Fortress Blaze, alright, now we can fight the Espada without worrying about interference from them. Now, could have Aizen broken through the Fortress Blaze move? Because Aizen is always a kind of guy, like, you can never know what he's thinking, or even when he does get kind of, like, pegged, he never, like, lets it on that he has been. He's just like, I could break out of this prison, but I should let the Espada get their time to shine. You know, these are the top 3 in my army. I'm sure they will be more than enough to defeat the captains of the Gotei. So I don't know. I don't know if Aizen could have just busted out his Hogyoku voodoo magic and broken out of the prison, but we're just going to assume he couldn't, alright? And then, of course, when Fura and Wanderweiss showed up, that's how they actually got broken out of that. But it was burning for quite some time up until that point. So, yeah, but, you know, he doesn't even need to rely on those kind of techniques. He really just, like, there's no need for it. You just take out the sword, fire erupts out of it, and you just... And that's usually enough to take you down. That was enough to take down Holybell's Fracciones. That was enough to take down during the 1,000-Year Blood War arc when all the Stern Ritters were jumping Yamamoto's bones when he confronted Yuha. All he did was just wave his sword around like a magic fire death wand, and it just ignites everybody around him, and they just get dropped. And then that's all he really needs. But when he faces off against a worthy opponent, he will, you know, start to take it seriously and use more directed kind of techniques. So, the only other technique that I think was named in the manga in his Shikai form was his Flames of Hell technique, and he used this against Aizen. So this is a technique that requires a little bit of preparation. It was implied that while all the other captains were basically going to the slaughterhouse, fighting against Aizen, and just getting wrecked after wrecked after wrecked, Yamamoto didn't get involved in that scuffle because in the background he was setting up this. All over fake Karakura Town he was laying these, I guess, fire traps is the best way for me to imply them. These, like, huge circles around town that when activated with his RYUJIN JAKKA, they just erupted in these huge fire pillars, and so it's just all around town, giant pillars just completely surrounding Aizen and Yamamoto. So then all Yama had to do at that point was just let Aizen run him through with Kyoka Suigetsu, grab him to make sure he's real, and then he was just going to activate this ability, Flames of Hell, and all of the flames were supposed to, like, merge together in just one epic inferno, and the entire fake Karakura Town would just be incinerated along with everybody within the perimeter. That would include Aizen, Yamamoto, and all of the captains that were defeated by him. But hey, this is how Yama rules, okay? Yamamoto... He's not like a cruel leader, okay? He's not the kind of guy that, like, relishes in sending his subordinates to go die on on his behalf or anything like that. But he's not a softy either. He's not like the kind old man that's like, I am the leader of the Gotei 13, everybody. Let's all make sure we get along. No, he's like a military leader. He's a general. He's been doing this for thousands of years, and he's like, okay, Aizen is a threat to the Soul Society. If it means that all of the members of the Gotei 13, including myself, have to give up their lives to end his evil, then we will do that. The Soul Society will survive after our deaths. New captains can arise. The next generation will come out. I mean, the Zero Squad is still around. The Soul King is still around. If we lose this fight, the Soul King could die. And that's something, as Shinigami and as members of the Gotei, we simply cannot abide by. And so... it was kind of... I like to think, though, it was kind of a funny scene when he was activating his flames of hell, and Aizen was like, really now, Captain? Do you really want to give up the lives of all of your subordinates? And Yama's like, giving up their lives. They knew they were going to do this. And then you cut to the ground, and you see, like, Shunsui lying there, and Toshiro's on the ground bleeding out. And you like to think that's like, oh yeah, they're ready. They've resigned themselves to their fate. They gave it their all and they failed, so now Yamamoto has to resort to this last-ditch effort thing. But you figure there's at least maybe one person down there in the rubble that was like, hey, wait a second! I don't know if I'm cool with this now. Let me just try to scoot out of the perimeter really quick until he does tell Ichigo to do that. Yamamoto does have some compassion with Ichigo because he's like, Kurosaki Ichigo, you know, this is not your fight. You are not an official member of the Gotei. You are not even a Shinigami. You're a half Shinigami. You're a human. So get out of here so you can just avoid this inevitable fate, because this is our fight, not yours. So he does show compassion. Like I said, he's not a dick, but he's just like, hey, the drastic times call for drastic measures. You think you're enough to take me down, boy, you know, Aizen, because he's so much younger than Yama is. And you know what? Even Aizen himself looked at Yamamoto and even, you know, stated, your Zanpakuto, the RYUJIN JAKKA, it is the absolute strongest Zanpakuto. There's no question about that. Like, that's not even debatable. This is Aizen, the guy that was rather arrogant throughout his entire run. You know, just how awesome he is. Actually taking a little bit of humility here and admitting, like, yeah, your Zanpakuto is stronger than mine. It's stronger than everybody's, okay? It's the oldest. It's thousands of years old. You had literally millennia to train with it and master the Shikai and Bankai of that blade. So, no duh. I mean, Aizen has probably been around for a couple hundred years. He's still a Shinigami, but nothing in comparison to Yamamoto. Which is why Aizen had to create YHWACH as a perfect counter to take on Yamamoto's RYUJIN JAKKA. So he creates YHWACH, the only modded Arrancar with the Resurrection of Extinguer, which is Extinguisher. So it grabs Yamamoto's RYUJIN JAKKA and seals the flames inside of it. Now, not exactly sure how you create something like that, but remember Hogyoku magic, voodoo magic. So, you know, it could do pretty much anything as long as you set your mind to it. So let's just assume that makes sense. Although I like to think that if Yamamoto went Bankai against YHWACH, which he never would have done, because that would seriously wreck the human world in a way that could not be, like, recovered from. Like, you think this is a problem right now with, like, the hole in our ozone layer? If Yamamoto went Bankai for even a second, we would have no ozone layer. It would just be so, yeah, that's not a good thing to do that, but I don't think YHWACH would be able to contain all of the flames of his Bankai, just like the flames that he's, you know, spewing out of his Shikai, you know, so that's all he was able to do there, and that still didn't work, because all Yama had to do was just punch him really hard, and that just broke him apart. But of course, this was all part of Aizen's plan as well. After he was defeated, the flames that he was stored inside got released, and then Yama had to protect the entire town by blocking it, and that's how Yama got taken out of that fight. After that, using Ito Kaso on Aizen, which I'm still pissed about that didn't do anything. I mean, come on! It's like Hado 96, Ito Kaso. It's like this cremation blade, this huge fiery pillar just erupts. Basically, what he was going to do anyway, and all that happened with Aizen is he got some char marks on his face and his clothes were a little singed. I'm like, are you okay? Are you really? Okay, fine, whatever. But yeah, so that was how Yamamoto got taken out in that fight. You know, the entire time you're watching freaking fake Karakura, you're wondering, like, okay, the captains are not going to be able to defeat Aizen. You know, Toshiro Hitsugaya is... I love you, Toshiro. Not really. You're not really my favorite, but you're alright. You're an okay character. You're not going to take out Aizen. Alright, Komamura, you're not going to take out Aizen. But then you start thinking, like, Yama is in the background the entire time. Like, yeah, Ichigo's going to be the one to ultimately defeat him. We understand that. He's the main character, but it's like, how is Yamamoto going to fit into this? Because he's right there. We know he's stronger than Aizen. We know he could take him out. So how's he going to get taken out? And that's how it happens. Like a self-sacrifice. I have to protect the rest of the world or something, which fits his character. It's just... that was just like, alright, well, there's that train that ran aground. Okay, and he lost an arm in the process by using that keto, which once again only resulted in singeing Aizen just a little bit. But that's his Shikai. So moving on to his Bankai, Zanka no Tachi. So, Yamamoto's Bankai falls into the trope of, hey, we're gonna use this awesome final ability before the character dies. So that blew. You know, it wasn't, you know, at first when he activated his Bankai against Yuha, it's like, alright, let's see where this is going, but literally every chapter after he first revealed it, he revealed a new badass section of his Bankai. Like in chapter 506, this is Zanko no Tachi East. 507, this is West. 508, this is South. And then 509 is North. And I'm like, after you start finding out all these different abilities in each chapter, I'm like, oh, he's gonna die. Like, that, he's showing off all these really cool things he can do, and how invincible he is. He's gonna die. It's gonna be horrible, too. We're not gonna be fans of this. But anyway, his Bankai makes sense why he didn't like to use it very often, because of just how OP it is, and how much of a negative effect it has on everything around him. So, in Zanko no Tachi East, which is like the base form of his Bankai, like when he first activates it, all of the flames that he previously emitted from RYUJIN JAKKA go back into the blade, and the blade itself just becomes kind of like a charred, burnt out, like just, you know, I don't know, like campfire or whatever. It looks like the blade itself is made out of just like smoldering charcoal, like it's not even a blade. Like if you tried to swing this at somebody, the whole blade would just fall apart just by the wind pressure by swinging it. But no, this is truly his Bankai, and apparently it was different from when he used it against Yuha back in the day. Back in the day, the way Yuha remembered it, or at least the way Royd remembered Yuha remembering it, was that whenever Yamamoto went into his Bankai, it compressed the flames down into just his sword, like the entire sword blade. So when he swung it, like huge waves of fire just got sent flying. But he's trained with it, and since Yuha's fight with Yamamoto 1,000 years ago, he's now able to compress that flame to not just the blade, not just down to that level, but even smaller than that, down to just the edge level. So when he like pulls up his sword, like the entire thing will just be smoldering except for the actual edge itself, which will be just this bright, like just white, because of like just the sheer heat of this flame, that it's all the fire compressed into just this single point. And so anything he cuts will just get shing. Like if he stabs the ground of it, like a hole in the ground will just be created, like thousands of meters deep, probably, just incinerated out of existence, right? So that's his East ability. Right then and there, you think that would be pretty much all he would require to cut down Yuha. But no, he reveals his other abilities. So next is West, which is the fire armor that he has now. And this is not usually visible, but he has to make it visible in order for you to see it. It's fire armor. It's like he's literally the embodiment of the sun. So, Escanor reference, anybody? Okay, cool. Actually, Yamamoto versus Escanor would actually be a really cool fight. Let's have that. Somebody somewhere draw that. I don't know, but that sounds cool, right? Anyway, I'm pretty sure Yama would win just because of the sheer age, but I don't know. Then again, Escanor. I don't know. Comment that below. But no, he actually states directly, you know, the armor that I'm wearing, the heat that's being generated off of this fire, it's hotter than the sun itself. It's like over like 100 million degrees Fahrenheit. You're not going to be able to even get close to me with this armor on. And it is still in the appearance of fire, and YHWACH was even confused by that, because after Yamamoto says it's like as hot as the sun, YHWACH is like, there's no way that level of heat would be visible by just fire, and that's when he realizes that isn't just regular fire. The flames that are coming off of him making that armor, that is his Ryatsu. His Ryatsu is so hot and so intense, his Ryatsu takes the form of fire. And, like, you can't just do that in Bleach, okay? Ryatsu is really just this intangible aura that just comes off of every Shinigami in your Zanpakuto. You can't just take aura and just, like, I'm gonna turn my aura into water now. The only time that kind of happens is when you use Shunko, like, you know, but that's a Kido spell. We're not talking about Kido, okay? It's, you know, Kido is when you take your aura, your Ryatsu, and then recite a spell, and then you can, you know, turn your Ryatsu basically as the fuel for the spell. Alright, we're talking about, like, just changing your Ryatsu into a different kind of element. That kind of thing just doesn't happen, okay? Yamamoto did it. Alright, that's how badass he is. And so can't even touch him, can't even get close to him without your entire, like, it's not even like your arm will get sunburnt or singed. Like, if a normal human even stepped within a few miles of Yamamoto while he's in this form, your arm would literally just start to just incinerate, you know? Like, it's like if you had a ball of just heat, just compressed, that was as hot as the sun, and you just threw it in somebody's backyard, like the entire town, like that would have a negative effect on like the entire surrounding countryside, you know, like everything would just be warped and melting, right? That's Yamamoto. Now, the Seirete is a little different from the regular world. Like, if he used his Bankai, if he used this ability in our world, like I said, the entire world, like the ozone layer would just be poof, gone, you know, and we would just be dead. But the Seirete is all made out of Ryoku and everything, so it's a little bit more stable, but still, suffice it to say, everything water in the Seirete would just be evaporated immediately, and all the moisture would slowly be getting drained out of everything just by his mere presence. He doesn't even have to be doing anything. He doesn't even have to be fighting. Just activating his Bankai alone is enough to start draining all of the moisture out of the Seirete. So, that's west. As you can imagine, there's a south and a north. Can this get cooler? Yes, it can. Or rather, should I say it gets hotter, because with the south technique is his coolest one. Don't care. North is alright, but south is the coolest. That was Kubo basically like, alright, I don't think Yama is cool enough for me about to send him off permanently, so I'm just gonna have fun and give him this awesome, badass, rockin' heavy metal ability. And it's the ability to resurrect an entire army of charred, burnt-out skeletons to use as you see fit as your undead army straight out of an Iron Maiden album cover. That is awesome! Alright? So, this technique, once again, you figure, like, he doesn't have to use this against Yuha. You think East would be sufficient enough to just end him, or Royd at that moment, but it's like, you did all this horrible stuff to the Seirete, I kinda wanna get my chops, you know, in too. I wanna get like, alright, you attacked us, you embarrassed us, you killed my not my vice admiral, you killed my vice captain, Chojiro, you stole all of our Bankais. I want to give you kind of like a feeling of you're screwed and you're going to get just wrecked by your own subordinates. So it's not just like regular skeletons. It's not an illusion, or it's not just like he, you know, takes the ashes and molds them into something that looks like skeletons. No, he literally resurrects previous people that were incinerated by Ryujin Jakka. Like, their actual skeletons come back from the dead, like all of the same markings, like Zydrit still had his eye patch and his scar and everything. They all come back and they start clawing at freaking Yuha, and they're like, "Aah!" And then Yuha's like, oh, my former subordinates that were killed by Yamamoto 1,000 years ago. So, you know, now obviously that wasn't Yuha, it was Royd, but any other normal, like, guy you're fighting against, that's the most cruel way to wipe you out with your, like if Yamamoto took out your previous subordinates or your family, he could have your family come back and drag you down, and so he doesn't even have to fight at that point. And the skeletons are so numerous because of all of the battles that Yama has been in over 1,000 years. I think the actual, like, English translated name implied that there were, like, billions or trillions of skeletons. I don't think it was anything like that number, but still, suffice it to say, hundreds of skeletons, thousands easily, and it doesn't matter. I mean, you could smash them apart, but they just keep coming. It's just like an endless horde of zombies. You can't get rid of them. And so that's when we lead into Zanko no Tachi North, which is the ultimate move, which is kind of lame if you ask me. The image of him using it is awesome. It's just, boom, here's the image of North. It's just one epic, godly swing, like the ultimate swing. You might say, how is that different from East? It's just a lot bigger and more epic, and there's freaking, you know, Japanese characters like, boom, 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 and that's his final move. But the damage it left on Roy doesn't really seem as, like, as big as I thought. Like, you figure, like, a massive swing like that, like, not only would Royd's entire existence just be but, like, the entirety of the Seirete well beyond Royd, and probably a good chunk of the Rukon district would just be, like, if Yama's here, and Royd is right here, and Yama swings as and just everything in that path would just be incinerated. and there'd be a giant crater that would stand for all time. But unfortunately, no, it was just like it didn't even slice all the way through his chest. I'm like, that's kind of, okay, maybe Yama was trying to retain himself, but still, why even use the big awesome slice if it's not going to be a big awesome slice? Oh, but anyway, yeah, that is Yamamoto's Bankai, because afterwards it was revealed that it was exactly as planned by Yuha, and he managed to wipe out Yama from behind, and oh, yeah, that's right, steal his Bankai, which is never referenced afterwards, and is never used by Yuha. Not that it matters, because Yuha had like a bajillion god powers by the end of the series, one of which was literally absorbing God, and God's right hand, and having his time manipulation and future manipulation abilities and everything, and he could see all. So it's not like he needed it, but it was like, yep, I stole Yama's Bankai. That would have been funny. That would have been hilarious if at the end of the fight they used the still silver arrow and it negated every single one of his natural like god abilities or the abilities he got by absorbing the Soul King. But then he's like, wait, I still got this, and he pulls out the medallion with Zanko no Tachi and boom! And it's like, nope, we're not ending the series yet. We still gotta wrap up this plot point. But no, we don't. So yeah, the only sad thing about Zanko no Tachi is we didn't really get to see it like more than once. That would have been cool, because it's just like, it was hard, like reading it week to week even felt kind of rushed, because it was like Zanko no Tachi East, all of my flames compressed into my blade. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. So then he'll be Zanko no Tachi West, my armor of the sun. I'm like, oh, okay, well that's really cool too. But it's like, I can resurrect the dead. I'm like, okay, calm down, that's awesome, but you can, you know, go back to the other ones, but it's okay, we can stay with Zanko no Tachi North. I'm like, damn it, come on! It's like we get one chapter, sometimes not even a chapter, sometimes we got like half of a chapter to focus on this one ability before we move on to the next one, and it's just hastening his inevitable death. So I'm like, it would have been cool if it was at least hinted at beforehand, right? Like if he came back, I don't know how he would have managed to use it, because he couldn't have used it in the living world, it simply couldn't have happened. But I'm sure, like, he had other techniques in East and West, like, other moves that we just never got to see. South is kind of self-explanatory, North is kind of self-explanatory, but come on, you got an armor of fire that's hotter than the sun, there's probably a few more techniques, like Yamamoto Bear Hug, and you just get crispy bacon. Yeah, so that was cool. But anyway, yeah, Yamamoto's strongest Zanpakuto, RYUJIN JAKKA. Also, during the Zanpakuto filler, it was one of the ones that never had a human form. It was just literally fire. That was literally what it looked like in the Zanpakuto filler. Because it's like, and I like that they did that, because it was like, no human form could properly, you know, represent what this sword is. Unless it was like, the only way you could have maybe had it work is if RYUJIN JAKKA's human form was like colossal titan size, like a super colossal titan old man covered in scars and just having like a huge flowing fire armor. Like that's, and like with the kanji for fire like right in the center of his chest. And he was holding like a giant like version of the katana, or like a giant battle axe or something, and this thing was like 60 meters tall. Like that would maybe work. But beyond that, just having like the form, like it's so powerful it can't even be represented by a human form. That angle works too. So yeah, RYUJIN JAKKA. I like it. I know you guys liked it. We're never gonna see it again, but that's why we're never not gonna see any of these swords ever again, but that's the reason we're doing this, right? Well, no, who knows? We might be able to see it, and the anime might always come back. I don't know. There was that hoax a few days ago with the Crunchyroll thing, which in case you don't know, yeah, that was fake. Don't worry. You know, Bleach continuation confirmed 2020. That's not real. It's not real. It doesn't appear on the Crunchyroll website or their Twitter at all, and nobody else it's not real, so sorry. But Retro Rhino is making his series, the 1,000-Year Blood War Arc, and we actually got to see a little bit of Yamamoto in the first episode, so that's going to be cool to see. That'll be coming up at some point. So we can still see RYUJIN JAKKA. It'll be sweet. Alright, so with that being said, let's now move on to my Soul Reaper info cards. That was a callback to Naruto the Abridged series, Ninja info cards. I have my Ninja info cards. Remember that? Remember that? Man, we're flashing back to the mid to late 2000s today. All right, I'm gonna close my eyes because even on the back of these, you can kind of see the image of what Captain Division it is. All right, The next captain we will be discussing in this series is... Which is it? Which is it? I hope it's Mayuri. Is it cool? It's... Oh, that's Shunsui. Okay, cool. Yeah, Squad 8, Captain Shunsui Kyoraku, or now it's actually Lisa Yadomaru right now at the end of the series, but we don't know her Bankai, so it turns it into, like, a giant, like, halberd kind of bell thing. There you go. Okay, now moving on to Shunsui's, which is a really fun one, and his Bankai was, of course, revealed in the last arc, so we'll be discussing that one later. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and hope you enjoy this new series. This will be Tekking signing out. All things in the universe turn to ashes. RYUJIN JAKKA!